He took away my young adulthood.
Carrie's relatives tracked down Laura Wilson, who had filed a complaint against Matt when she was a freshman in the early 1990s. Both worked in the athletic department as trainers, where she says Matt sexually assaulted her.
He didn't stop with the kiss. He didn't stop with the touching until he was ready to stop.
We confronted Matt Baker with the incident. He remembers it as the total fantasy of an hysterical co-ed.
All I can tell you is when she left the facility, was in tears, but nothing that I did.
2020 was able to document several other complaints against Matt Baker, from a female custodian at the First Baptist Church of Waco, who says he grabbed her sexually, and a teenage girl at the same church complained that Matt made improper sexual advances. At his next job at the YMCA in Waco, where he supervised the day camp, Matt was fired after 4 young women complained to management of improper sexual conduct.
Can there be things that have been said that misconstrued? Possible. But never once did I solicit sex from them.
And now the Charlie's Angels say that Matt's double life was the motive behind what they believe is not a suicide, but Carrie's murder.
You know, he had a girlfriend. Carrie was in his way.
I wasn't interested in dating. I don't think there was ever an interest in that because I was happily married. I'm married. That's what I believe. I don't believe in adultery. I don't believe in divorce.
He never loved Carrie. I don't believe he's capable of love.
Do you think Carrie figured that out near the end?
Yes, I do. Carrie told me they were having problems. And that makes me really sad. Because my child never knew what it was to be loved by her husband.
Carrie's family is on Matt's tail. Just a month after she is buried, they watch as Matt replaces Carrie with Vanessa more and more publicly.
And he took her to Kinsey or Gracie's graduation up at this elementary school.
Well, looking for engagement rings.
The Charlie's Angels investigation turns up more stunning evidence. Carrie's therapist comes forward to reveal that Matt's wife suspected he was having an affair, and she feared he was out to get rid of her.
Carrie had shared with her that she was afraid that Matt might possibly try to kill her, and that she'd also found some pills, some crushed pills, in Matt's briefcase.
You know those words are probably going to hurt you.
Which words?
Words from a counselor saying, Carrie told me she was afraid her husband was going to kill her.
Well, I guess if the counselor believed that, why would she not have done more?
The tiny Hewitt Police Department, which handles one murder every 8 years, had none of this information before walking away from the crime scene that night, believing suicide. And when Linda Doolin tried to give it to the Hewitt police chief in person, she says he had no interest and rudely turned her away.
He said, if you are here to hash over the same old thing, you are wasting your time.
The family was highly critical of the Hewitt Police Department's investigation. One lone detective took just a handful of crime scene pictures. CSI techs were not called to the scene. Virtually no evidence was collected. No blood was taken from Carrie to see if and how many drugs were in her system. The justice of the peace, who didn't even bother to get out of bed, made the suicide ruling over the phone without an autopsy. So Charlie's Angels hired their own investigators, who find more critical evidence on Matt's computers. Tracking websites, they find the preacher was looking up information on sleeping pill poisoning.
I did research to see, can you overdose? Is that even a possibility that I need to worry about? My wife overdosing on sleeping pills.
Matt Baker's attorney concedes all the swirling stories and circumstantial evidence add up to an uphill fight for his client.
And I know that you can be convicted without any specific proof. There is no cause of death, there is no forensic proof, but we gotta fight like hell.
And for nearly 4 years, that's where it stands. 2 bickering families in a stalemate of justice. Matt Baker lives his new life, firm in his denial.
I have to ask you, did you kill your wife?
I did not kill my wife. I did not hurt my wife.
But when we return, a break in the case. This lawman sets a trap for the other woman, and she's running scared.
If you help me, then I'll be glad to help you. But if you don't, I'm going to take you down with him.
Stay with us. It's almost 2 years since Carrie Baker disappeared from this idyllic picture. A healthy 31-year-old woman with 2 adorable girls. Her death ruled a surprising suicide. Carrie's husband, Matt, a Baptist pastor, under suspicion by her family, which launches its own investigation, while Matt remains the innocent, free dad, caring for Kenzie and Grace at his parents' home 4 hours from Waco.
It's okay, put the L beside it.
Under constant scrutiny by his in-laws, who tell everyone, including Texas Monthly Magazine, that he murdered his wife,
She was my best friend.
Matt goes on the very public defensive, scheduling a series of interviews to counter the charges from Carrie's family. His first national exposure is on 2020.
Could you do this?
There's no way I could ever have hurt my wife. I loved her. She's the mother of my children. And like every marriage, you have your ups and your downs. You have your good days and your bad days. But I loved her, and I miss her, and I did not hurt my wife.
Matt had lost his preacher's job. He and the girls supported themselves out of the generosity of his parents and their church, which held fundraisers. His attorney, Guy James Gray, even donated his otherwise very expensive services.
I thought it was kind of a witch hunt, really. A mother lost a child, and she was on a campaign for justice.
I talked to Matt Baker's attorney today. He told me his client did not murder his wife. And
the defense strategy of going public appeared to be working. There was no indictment. Carrie's family kept at it, but in meeting after meeting with police and prosecutors, they were told, even with the cell phone records and the new woman in Matt's life, even with the computer searches about Ambien poisoning, they were not going to prosecute a preacher with a clean record unless they had a slam-dunk case. Assistant District Attorney Crawford Long handled those meetings.
That must be a difficult conversation for a prosecutor to have, right?
Oh, surely it is. You never like to tell a family member that you're going to have to wait.
Carrie's family did make some progress. They asked for and got a coroner's inquest, exhuming her body, conducting the autopsy and toxicology tests not performed in the days immediately after her death. But because Carrie's body had been embalmed, the tests were inconclusive. But there was one big success. The inquest changed the cause of death from suicide to undetermined.
Carrie Lynn Baker's manner and cause of death shall be recorded as undetermined.
A small victory that encouraged Carrie's parents to file a wrongful death suit in civil court against Matt Baker. And he was put under oath in this taped deposition by their attorneys.
What did you observe when you first opened that door?
My wife naked laying on the bed.
Carrie's family hoped suing him would unlock hidden evidence and prompt a criminal indictment. But still, it did not come. And Matt Baker continued life as a free man 3 years after Carrie's death.
I think a lot of people thought the case was sitting on a shelf somewhere. We were actively doing things like the DNA, the fingerprinting, talking to the pathologist, doing everything we could.
Still, not enough. Nothing worked. Until
finally, we turned to Vanessa Bowles, the alleged girlfriend, and we have an investigator who's been very talented in getting people to confess to things. Abden Rodriguez.
I picked up a lot of red flags during the interview from she not telling me the truth.
Abden Rodriguez is a cop's cop, not flashy, sort of an Hispanic Columbo. Looks like he was never born to wear a suit. But he has a way of earning confidence of those for whom he is working.
Abden Rodriguez always knew she knew everything. He always did.
And more importantly, he often strikes fear into those whom he is investigating. Not with threats, but by knowing the facts. Before his interviews with Vanessa Bowles, he took meticulous notes in his pad and called her on any little mistake or lie.
I told her, I'm going to gather